Stop. Before you advance and before you lower the volume, before you think, oh, I've heard this before. Listen carefully. The first minutes of the new year are not just a clock turning. They are a signature, an invisible stamp. As if someone put ink on your soul and said, this is how he enters. This is how she begins. This is how they choose to live. And I will say this with all the firmness that this night demands. The spiritual world takes the beginning seriously, because the beginning is not a detail. The beginning is a portal. And when a portal opens, two things can enter, light or a breach. Today, Archangel Miguel warns you, not to accuse you, not to shame you, but to position you. Miguel is the prince of the heavenly militia, the guardian of discernment. He doesn't just protect from blatant evil, he protects from evil disguised as normal, from evil dressed as habit, from evil wrapped as tradition. And I need to tell you with love, but without softening, there are errors that seem small, seem common, seem just one night, but function as open doors to darkness. And an open door doesn't ask for an invitation. An open door is access. If you are hearing this now, it's not by chance. You didn't fall here by distraction. You are not here out of curiosity. You were called to interrupt a cycle, because perhaps you are tired of repeating, I start well and collapse. I promise and don't sustain it. I pray and still feel vulnerable. Oda, I ask for protection, but it seems something always finds a breach. Breathe. I will show you 4 errors that destroy your spiritual protection at the turn of the year. And I'm warning you now, the 4th is the most common. It is the most beautiful on the outside. It looks like faith, it looks like devotion, it looks like a good thing. But inside, it is negotiation. And negotiation opens an enormous door. Stay with me until the end. Not because I want to trap you, but because I want to save you from yourself, from that automatic way of living that makes you enter a new year with the same open doors as last year. And I will hammer this several times like a bell. There is a window. There is a threshold. There is a moment when the later closes. It's not for tomorrow. It's not for Monday. It's not when it happens. It's now. It's at the turn. It's before you sleep today. Because you don't start the year the way you wish. You start the way you cultivate life. The first day only reveals what you tolerated. If you tolerated disorder, you reveal disorder. If you tolerated excess, you reveal excess. If you tolerated an empty promise, you reveal an empty promise. If you tolerated open doors, you reveal open doors. And then you ask, Miguel, protect me. But protection is not magic. Protection is alignment. When you align yourself, you are covered. When you negotiate, you expose yourself. Short micro scene for you to feel the weight of this. Imagine the new year as a large wooden door. On this side is what has passed. On that side is what is coming. And Miguel is at the door like a sentinel with his shield raised. He doesn't prevent you from entering. He calls you to enter with order. Because whoever enters in order is covered. Whoever enters in confusion enters vulnerable. And perhaps you have already lived this without realizing it. You start the year light. But in a few days the same anxiety returns, the same irritation, the same feeling of attack. It's not bad luck. Many times it's a repeated signature. You enter with a breach and spend months running after what could have been sealed in the first minutes. So, pay attention. Each error I will show you here comes with 3 things. A micro scene, for you to see, an invisible consequence for you to understand, and a practical cut for you to close. And with each step I will repeat like a hammer. Do it now, don't push it. The later closes, so let's go straight, without theater. Heaven respects decision. Error 1. Entering with emotional disorder, anger, envy, resentment. You might not call this an error. You might call it a vent. You might call it justice. You might say, I have a reason. But the spiritual world doesn't measure by your reason. It measures by your state. Micro scene 1, the countdown ended. Fireworks explode, people shout Happy New Year. You smile, but inside your chest is heavy. You remember an unresolved conversation. You remember a humiliation. And the phrase you don't say aloud burns inside. I haven't forgotten. Micro scene 2, you look at your phone. You see a photo of someone who won. You see trips, family, money, smiles, and you feel a pang, not of admiration, but of comparison. And deep down you think, why not me? Why is it always difficult for me? Micro scene 3. You are at the table with family, everyone toasting, and someone drops a hint. You laugh out of politeness, but inside you arm yourself. You respond with sarcasm, you return with venom. And the year begins with a blow, not with peace. Miguel warns you, reason without peace turns into venom, and venom at the beginning of the cycle turns into a seed. What you feed in the first minutes turns into the climate in the first months. Direct question. What feeling are you carrying now that you have pretended it's nothing? Because resentment doesn't stay quiet. It leaks. It contaminates. It changes your tone. It changes your choices. It alters your reactions. It steals your clarity. And when clarity leaves, protection weakens. The problem isn't you feeling. The problem is you entering the year harboring. Emotion can be a visitor. But when you make it a home, it becomes a government. Hammer. Don't let this cross midnight. Don't carry this wound into the first dawn of the year. Don't stamp the cycle with the same venom. Now the solution isn't to feel beautiful. The solution is to decide clean. Practical micro scene. Before the toast, you step away for 30 seconds. Go to the bathroom, the balcony, a corner. Place your hand on your chest. Close your eyes. And say softly, like closing a door, I return what hurt me. I don't enter with this. Miguel, cleanse my heart. And you breathe 3 times and slowly, like removing a splinter, like pulling out a weed before planting. Invisible consequence. When you cleanse your heart, you regain discernment, and discernment is a shield. Loop. What if the biggest battle of your year isn't against people, but against the state you allow to reside within you? Now, 3 signs that you are about to commit this first error. And this happens to good people, you know. You enter complaining about the past year, as if complaining were an amulet of protection. You enter comparing your life with others, as if comparison were realism. You enter speaking ill of someone, even if it's in a joking tone. Micro scene. The family is gathered and someone says, I hope this year is better because the other one was a disaster. You laugh, agree, and without realizing it, consecrate the new cycle with defeat. Words have weight. 10-second practical cut. Change the phrase immediately. Simple. Instead of it was horrible, say it's over. Now I choose a new beginning. Instead of no one is good, say I choose peace and discernment. Instead of I deserved more, say I enter with gratitude and governance. This isn't empty positivity. It's protection. It's closing the door of venom in your tongue and heart. Remember this, because the second error is what destroys inner governance. And when inner governance falls, anything can enter. Error 2. Entering with excess and loss of control. Today is okay, tomorrow I'll be back. Listen, celebrating is not a sin. The problem is when celebration turns into escape, and escape always charges interest. Micro scene 1, you start with just 1, then it turns into just a little more. Someone offers, you accept, your tongue loosens, your mind slows down, you send a message you shouldn't. You say what you didn't need to, you cross a limit and the next day try to erase it with shame. Micro scene 2, you laugh, but you are not present. You dance, but you are escaping. You drink, but you are trying to silence an emptiness. And then you say, oh, it was just at the turn of the year. But in the invisible, it wasn't just. It was a signature. I enter losing command. Miguel doesn't seal lack of control. He seals decisions. And spiritual protection demands self-governance. Because whoever doesn't govern themselves is governed. Question. What is your New Year's excess? What always goes too far? What have you already promised you wouldn't do again? And repeat. Hammer. In the first minutes, choose sobriety, choose lucidity, choose presence. Because the spiritual window doesn't ask for euphoria. It asks for clarity. Practical micro scene. You raise your glass, But before drinking, you make a gesture of governance. I am not a hostage to this. You drink little, you stop. You look around and realize you are still in command. Invisible consequence. When you enter with lucidity, your mind becomes sharp. And a sharp mind perceives what it didn't perceive last year. Protection increases because you stop being predictable. Loop. How many doors did you open last year by losing command for just one night? And pay attention to a detail that brings many people down. Loss of control isn't just drinking. Sometimes it's the mouth. It's the message sent in the middle of the night. It's the argument you buy into because you want to win. It's the cutting remark you make because you are excited by the environment. You might not fall into great sin, but you fall into lack of control, and lack of control is a breach. Practical cut. If you feel you are accelerating, take a 15-second break. Drink water, be silent, breathe, and repeat inwardly, Miguel, guard my mouth. This saves many lives because most falls begin with a phrase. Now the third error is even more subtle. It doesn't destroy your lucidity. It destroys your truth, and without truth, there is no covering. Error 3. Empty promises. I'll change later. This is the error of those who speak big and live small, of those who make speeches at the turn of the year and deliver the same character in January. Micro scene 1. Midnight. You hug someone and say, this year will be different. You write a list. You post a beautiful phrase. You promise, I will pray more. I will take care of my body. I will distance myself from what harms me. And everyone applauds. But inside, you are already negotiating. Just one more week. After Carnival. When there's time. And later becomes a house, and you live in it all year. Miguel is clear. He doesn't seal promises. He seals decisions. And decision has a gesture. It has a cut. It has action. A question that hurts. What promise did you make last year that now shames you because you didn't keep it? Because when you promise and don't keep it, you teach yourself that your word is worthless. And when your word is worthless to you, your spiritual authority weakens. You lose weight, you lose firmness, you lose internal respect. Hammer. The New Year window doesn't accept theater. It responds to truth. And truth is simple. Do small, but do it now. Practical micro scene. Instead of saying, I will pray more, you decide, today before sleeping, I will pray for 3 minutes. Instead of, I will distance myself, you delete a contact, cancel an invitation, leave a group. It's not a whole year, it's a real step. Invisible consequence. When you take a small step, you rebuild your authority. And authority is protection. Loop. What if your greatest victory this year is to regain respect for your own word? And here's a quick test before you continue. If you feel a tightness when you think about changing, that's a sign that the promise is too big and the decision is too small. Don't make big promises. Make small decisions. Heaven doesn't demand perfection. It demands truth. 3 small decisions that are worth gold at the turn of the year. A request for forgiveness that you are postponing. A conversation you need to end with respect. A habit you need to cut for 7 days just to prove you govern. Choose one, do it. And you will feel your authority return. Now breathe, because the 4th error is the most dangerous. It looks like faith. It looks like tradition. But it is negotiation, and negotiation opens an enormous door. Error 4. Asking for blessing without closing doors. Miguel, protect me, but I'll continue with this. This is the error disguised as devotion. You start by asking for light, but keep the switch off. Micro scene 1. You are at the table. Grapes, pomegranate, lentils. Everyone talks about prosperity. You say a beautiful prayer. You ask, God bless my year. Miguel, guard me. You even feel something. Only, afterwards you return to the same hidden practice, the same lie, the same addiction, the same toxic relationship, the same content that dirties your mind, the same conversation that drags you down. And then you say, but I pray. Yes, you pray, but you don't close the door. Miguel warns you, this is not faith, This is negotiation. You want protection without renunciation. You want healing without cutting what makes you sick. You want blessing with the same open access to corruption. Direct question: what door do you keep open while asking for protection? Hammer. In the first minutes, don't just ask for protection. Make a renunciation. Close, cut, leave. Practical, simple, and radical micro-scene. Before midnight, you choose one door to close. 1. You throw away something that holds you back. You cancel a habit. You decide that certain conversations do not enter your new cycle. You make a pact. I will not carry this into my year. Invisible consequence. When you renounce, you align yourself. And alignment attracts covering. Heaven covers those who decide with truth. Loop. What if everything you call bad luck is, in fact, a repeated open door? And let me tell you something important, so you don't get confused. Miguel is not against symbols. The problem isn't the table, the clothes, the gesture. The problem is using a symbol as a substitute for renunciation. If the symbol helps you remember the decision, great. But if the symbol becomes an excuse not to change, it becomes a trap. Micro-scene. You do everything nicely. Take a photo, post it, talk about faith. And 5 minutes later, you return to the same dirty conversation, the same hidden habit, the same just for today. This is a door with a gift ribbon, beautiful on the outside, open on the inside. Therefore, the question that closes this fourth era is, what real renunciation will prove that your faith is a decision and not decoration? The 10-10 turn. What to do in the first 7 minutes. Now I will give you a simple path, a ritual of governance and protection. Nothing mystical, nothing theatrical, just decision. 7 minutes. And if you are hearing this after the turn, it still works. Because every dawn is a beginning. Do these 7 minutes in the first moment of silence of your day, before picking up your phone, before talking to anyone, before letting your mind race. Heaven honors repeated beginnings, and when you decide, even if late, you seal it the same way. But don't delay any longer. Do it at the next point of lucidity, because 7 well-sealed minutes are worth more than a year of empty promises. First minute, order in the heart. You become silent. You cut out anger. You decide to forgive. Second minute, governance over self. You decide not to lose command. You enter with lucidity. Third minute, truth without theater. You choose a small, real step. Fourth minute, renunciation without excuse. You close a door. Fifth minute, declaration. I belong to the light. I do not negotiate. Sixth minute, right request. Miguel, guard my mind, guard my eyes, guard my mouth. Seventh minute, action, because heaven respects action. Hammer, don't push it to later, because later closes. And what you don't seal now turns into an attack later. Deep identification, the root that repeats. Now, I need to take you inside, because these errors are not just things of the turn, they are symptoms. The root is this: the silent pain you don't face turns into a habit, the hidden wound turns into a reaction, the fear of emptiness turns into excess, guilt turns into an empty promise, neediness turns into negotiation with God. Now I want you to do a sincere examination, quick but true. 3 questions, 3 mirrors. What am I tolerating that is stealing my peace? A conversation, an addiction, a comparison, a nighttime habit, a person who drains me. What am I calling normal that, in fact, is a breach? A type of humor, a type of content, a type of small lie, a socially acceptable excess. What am I postponing and calling later? But I know is a decision. A forgiveness, a cut, a discipline, a request for help. Micro-scene. You close the doors of the year with decision, and in the first days temptation returns stronger, not because you got worse, but because when you close a door, the shadow tries to knock, and that's where many people give up and think it didn't work. It did work. The knocking is proof that the door now exists. The secret is not to open it. Therefore, make a simple 3-day pact. Just 3. In the next 3 days, 3 minutes of prayer before sleeping. 10 seconds of silence before responding when you are irritated. One concrete renunciation that you will maintain, one closed door. 3 days of governance build a new path, and whoever creates a new path doesn't return to the old cycle so easily. And Miguel calls you to a point of truth. The battle is not just external, it begins within. Micro scene. You lie in bed after the turn of the year. The house becomes silent. The party is over. And you are alone with yourself. That's when the truth appears. And it is in this silence that Miguel asks you, are you ready to be radical with what destroys you? Final hammer. There's still time, but later closes. Do it today, do it in the first minutes, do it before sleeping. Prayer plus, seal plus, CTA. Now, do it with me. Archangel Michael, seal my beginning, guard my mind, purify my heart, give me governance over myself. I refuse emotional disorder, I refuse excess, I refuse later. I refuse empty promises. I close the doors that weaken me. I cut what pulls me down. I choose the light without negotiation. Miguel, place your shield over me, over my house, over my family, over my decisions, and may this year begin aligned. Amen. Breathe. Now comes the seal. 2 simple actions. Still today, choose one door to close. 1. And close it for real. And write in the comments, I close the doors. Miguel, guard my beginning. Because when you write, you commit. And if you want to make this even stronger, do one more thing. Share this video with someone you love who keeps repeating cycles, not to point fingers, but to extend a hand. Sometimes the warning that saves you also saves someone in your home, and I will ask you for one last gesture of alliance. If you want Miguel to guard your home at this beginning, also write below just these 2 words, Miguel guard. 2 words, short, but full of decision. Because in the end, that's it. Heaven doesn't move with long speeches. Heaven moves with an aligned heart and a closed door. Now go. Enter the year with order. Enter with governance. Enter with truth. Enter with renunciation. And you will feel the protection increase, not as superstition, but as a spiritual consequence of those who decided to live in the light. Protection is not luck. Protection is alignment.